Hi, I'm Kerri Anderson, Senior Sales Director at VideoAmp, and I'm here interviewing Kalli Chapman today, Head of Paid Media at Prudential Financial.
So nice to be here with you.
Nice to be here. All right, Kalli, so I know you just got off a panel and we're talking about women in advertising. I'm really excited for you to share some background with the folks here on what it's been like for you and your experience within the advertising industry. First question for you. So advertising leadership in general is still very male focused and a very heavily male dominated space. What are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced as a woman in leadership?
Yeah, so many. But I think I'll focus on one area because I think it's probably the thing so many of us struggle with is just being in our head and doubting ourselves with like almost every move we make because we know that we're coming in, to your point, in an industry that's very dominated by men, like many, right? So I think it's relatable to other industries as well. But I find that my biggest challenge is just getting myself to push, be uncomfortable, just do the thing, whether it's just speaking up in a meeting full of men in suits, or just asking to be in a meeting with the men in the suits, right? No matter what it is, just give yourself the push, stop doubting yourself, go and do the thing, say the thing, get out of your head. So for me, I'm constantly telling myself that, get out of your head, get out of your head. It's just, you're doubting yourself more than anybody in that room is going to be doubting you. Yeah,
and that brings up a good point is you kind of gave some advice in there for other women, but I've been in the career for a while in the advertising industry, not as long as you have been, but I think it would be really interesting to hear some advice that you would have for, say, especially younger women starting their career as more junior, but then even those who have been in for a while, who are looking to continue to grow. What's some advice that you would give to those women?
I think it comes back to, what I mentioned, which was make yourself uncomfortable. As a woman, you're going to be uncomfortable a lot. And so much of that is just getting yourself okay with that. I've been really, really fortunate in my career that I have worked, I was agency side before I went brand side. And I've worked in agencies with really amazing women who, were role models, were mentors. And honestly, I was in shops with people that I could have stayed forever and been content and still had a great career. But you get it to a certain point where you're you need to push yourself to take on a new challenge, to be uncomfortable, be in environments where it's not as easy.
Yeah.
I really think that's super, super important, is to just make yourself uncomfortable. We were talking about how I was doing a panel for the Brand Innovators team downstairs earlier, and I was moderating. I've never moderated a panel. I am always answering the questions on a panel. And so, that was uncomfortable for me. But, by the second question, you're oh, okay, I get it. I can do this side of things.
Yeah.
But, there's just so many examples of that. But I really think that would be, if I could only give one piece of advice, it would be comfortable being uncomfortable. Push yourself, do it, go for it.
I love this. Can I ask you a question that's not on here but related to what you just said? We could always cut this out if we need to. One of the comments you just made was about all of these women who are role models.
Yeah.
What do you think what are some traits that these women that were role models and mentors to you that you feel like they all had in common?
Yeah. Empathy, probably. Just treating people as humans. It's not just about a job and you may be my manager or whatever the sort of structure is. In particular, the woman that was managing me most recently, who has left and gone on to another company, but the most empathetic person I've ever met in my life. And I just feel especially going back to what we were just talking about, making yourself uncomfortable, you need somebody who is empathetic to encourage that and bring that out of yourself. You want to just have these honest conversations. You want somebody to understand where you're coming from, especially as a mom too, like somebody who can really, not necessarily relate, but just feel for what you might be going through, right? Like I get to the office sometimes and I'm rushing to make it to a 9 a.m. meeting where you need to be on and put together. And I have already battled each of my 3 children. Like we've been to war already, like, you know, and just somebody who could look at you and be able to be like, how are you? And you could be like, I'm having a morning. And they're like, I totally get it. Let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you. Like having those types of people in your corner, I think is just really, really important.
I'd love to continue on that topic of you being a mom with 3 daughters.
Yes.
You know, we're in this hybrid environment or back to office. It's been a little crazy few years. I imagine that there's some challenges there, and I'd love for you to share some of the, you know, personal challenges for you being a mom, what it's like being a mom in the advertising industry, someone who's super focused on her career, et cetera. Yeah.
Every day is tough, but every day is absolutely amazing. You know, whether you're having a win in your career or your like kid scored a goal at soccer or like whatever it may be, there's just always some good to find in every day. But with that said, like I said, sometimes it's 9 a.m. and I've already like battled each one of my children. So it is very, very difficult. I try to get myself to, and this is really like hard for me because it's not naturally how I lean, but I tried to get myself to be like, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Like if this is a week where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to be so extra rushed every morning to get everybody to their school and then get to the office for this big meeting and there's a lot going on, you know, I'm like, okay, let's just start with Monday. Let's get through Monday.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's that, and then we'll move on. Like, because if you think forward too far, it can be very, very overwhelming and it is a lot to juggle. The other thing that's been like really amazing for me is making sure that I have some time that is independent of my career and of my children. And so for me, I am the top Peloton fan, like the top fan. And so I do it every single day. Not necessarily the bike, like some days I'm running, some days I'm strength training, or some days I'm just taking a walk. But like there is a portion of the day always, even if it's 20 minutes, that is just for me, where I am doing that. And for me, that's like been really, really important for my mental health as I'm trying to like do it all, as they say. Yeah.
So it sounds like there are 2 pieces of advice that you might recommend to women in the industry, with families. Take things one day at a time.
Yeah.
And also make sure to take time for yourself.
Absolutely take time for yourself. You don't have to be a Peloton fan. There's lots of other things you can do. But yes, take time for yourself.
Love it.
You need that self-care.
So, Kalli, I know that you are head of paid media at Prudential. You obviously have a massive team underneath you. Would love to learn a little bit more about the team and how you all really collaborate and work together and how you inspire that across your teams.
Yeah. It's a good-sized team. I think we're about 15, and we're a hybrid model. So we do also work with some agency partners and obviously a tremendous amount of external vendors. But there are also media channels that we do like fully in-house. So a range of like specialists with different levels of technical abilities as well as more general strategists, you know, to bring everything to market. And I think for me, 2 things are really paramount. One is just about empowering the team. And I think that this has been something I've definitely leaned into more and more later in my career, because I've realized that, at least for me, the secret to it is making sure that everybody feels that no matter what happens, you're going to have their back. Because it's one thing to like say you're empowering people and encourage them to make their own decisions, to take risks, right? But it's another thing for them to feel safe doing so. And like, okay, even if this goes completely wrong, it's the biggest flop ever, it's going to be fine. And my manager or our leader is going to have our back. And so I think I'm constantly trying to be like, what do you think? What do you want to do? What's your decision? And then make sure that it's a quick follow-up with, no matter what happens, you have air cover. Like, tell me if you need help. Can I support you? Like that type of a thing, because I think that people really do need that reinforcement to make themselves comfortable and to seize that empowerment. So I think that's been a big thing. but also just like getting to know people. Like everybody's got different strengths and weaknesses, and oftentimes in a well-rounded team, like that balance is like amazing to see, where like one person should lean in and one person should lean out, especially as it relates to, again, more of like strategy versus the technical and the tactical, and finding that sweet spot. So yeah, just like take the time to have the conversations, get to know your people, and trust them. Yeah, you have to have that trust. That's really key.
And I feel like this is something that, the way you're phrasing it is something that you've brought to this team, right? Like you're carrying this, you're empowering this, which is amazing. Like, how do we build this dynamic where we're allowing people to come up to resolutions and solutions on their own? How do we empower each other to learn about each other, et cetera? Do you have like weekly meetings where you talk to people? Or do you have team meetings?
Yeah.
Do you have team outings? Like, how do you, what's that process like for you?
Yeah, our team outings have been lacking, I think, because everybody's schedules are so insane. But we do a weekly full team meeting, and then, there's sub-teams within the team, and so they're also meeting quite frequently and having their own weekly meetings. But we do one full group weekly meeting, and then everybody has the practice of doing one-on-one meetings with their direct manager. And yeah, we try to make sure in that weekly meeting, it's not just like status run through of items, right? Like we actually start talking about fantasy football usually most weeks because we're all playing fantasy football together. So like, just bring life into it, crack some jokes, have some fun, and then also, again, make it really about like, where can we all help each other? Who's like having like a tough time with something, and how can the rest of the team help? And it's not just me, like everybody is constantly helping one another, I think, to drive the best results for the business. And so it's a great forum. I am a big fan of bringing everybody together at a semi, regular cadence, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly or whatever works for.
That's great, and I'm sure that helps a lot from the empathy perspective of you having empathy for others, like as you start to get to know each other, as you start to work a lot more together. So it ties back to the advice that you would give and what those women had in common as like a great leader.
Yes, and I think that, being a mom, especially a mom of 3 girls who are highly, highly emotional, it's true, it really does bring out a different level of empathy, and I think that's really, really important as you work with a wide array of people.
Amazing. Moving topics now more into how you actually, like your roles and responsibilities for the team, for yourself. So what would you say is like your mission vision for your team and what your team's really focused on for this year?
Yeah, I mean, definitely more than just this year. It's, it takes time to really make impact, but we are all rallied around driving growth. And so that means, for our brands, really re-energizing the brands around the world, changing perception, but it also means, that the more short-term business outcomes. So we really try to find that balance of those long-term objectives and the short-term ones. I think that's not a set it and forget it task. The weighting between those things is constantly changing, especially as the external environment is. But we're really all focused around that concept of driving growth. Like marketing truly is a growth driver, and obviously all of our media channels are a huge piece of that. So it's really what can we do to move both the brands and the business forward.
So to that point, how are you and the team measuring success of growth and your media campaigns, your media channels, and as the head of the team, like what improvements are you hoping to see across the industry?
Yeah. It's still complex, right? I think like everybody's facing some of the same challenges in terms of everyone cares about a lot of different metrics, and you have to do a lot of reminding of like, what is the top priority? What are we focused on, right? Because it's not to say that this media campaign is not also going to do these other 3 things, but let's make sure we're all really clear of what that top priority goal is. And so, like I said, we're full funnel. So we're invested in long-term goals that really take quite some time to move in terms of brand consideration, brand familiarity, and again, changing perception. So we really have to rely on your more traditional brand health tracking mechanisms to measure success there, and it takes time. but there's so many short-term indicators we can look to, right? And then we also have a growing direct-to-consumer business where, there couldn't be more to work with, right? In terms of like data. And so again, it comes back to like, you can have 25 things on your scorecard and they're all important metrics, but let's just make sure we're really focused on what is priority numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
We're going to use everything else, right? It's not going to be set to the side. It tells the story. It helps us make decisions and optimize, but we have to define what is the priority to drive that growth. And so there we can use a lot of more direct response metrics, whether it's looking at, cost of leads, quality of leads. We're doing a lot to get people actually scheduling an appointment with an advisor. So let's just get them on the phone with that advisor, and then they can assess what that customer needs. And of course, dollars, right? We have to look at the sales outcomes. So we use we work a lot with Ipsos, and we do both your traditional marketing mix modeling across all of the businesses, but then also your more tactical placement level attribution to make some of those more real time for the working team, right? To actually optimize within all of the media channels.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot, which is amazing, and it's really important to have key focuses, priorities, et cetera, which is great. What do you think, based on the industry at large and the resources we have available today, would be some improvements that you think could be really valuable to Prudential?
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably hear this a lot, especially at VideoAmp, but I still think like there's got to be some level of agreement on standardized metrics across the industry. I think, you hear a lot of chatter of like things that are out of date, things that are more, keeping with consumption habits and how we should track things. But it's still really fragmented. There's just so many silos happening, and I think we need to, as an industry, come better together and sort of evolve, some of our standard metrics as the industry has evolved, and then I'll kind of hold to that to some degree, at least for some time, until it changes once again.
Amazing. All right. Well, Kalli, it's been really amazing to hear about your experience in the industry. I'm sure you're going to be helping lots of women out there and even those men see what's really important about working with ladies in leadership. It's been a pleasure learning about you, and I hope that everyone else has enjoyed the conversation as much as I have.
Thank you so much for the time. It was great talking to you.